Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, supported by Cropscience. Okay, Leighton, harvest is very much underway in Western Canada. We've had some beautiful weather here in September. What are some of the things that you're hearing from the field across the West in terms of yield with canola?
Well, Sean, I think that there's a real mixed bag out there. And especially we're hearing what would be a bit abnormal for Manitoba. My colleagues in that province had the issues with flooding, with too much excess moisture in the onset of the season in the springtime when they were trying to get the crop in. And then the tap shut off, and it really impacted the crop yields out there. So canola yields are they're down. We're seeing numbers. Producers are reporting in that really low numbers. So we're hearing some returns of 10, 12, 15, 20 bushel canola yields. Ooh. I mean, there are some better crops, but those are, you're hearing them more than you definitely would have heard them from Manitoba.
Yeah, and I'm hearing the same thing with soybeans, that they're expecting like a 20, a lot of 20 bushel soybean crops. So disappointing across the board there, I think.
Yeah, and then when you get to Saskatchewan, it seemed like they did also struggle with some moisture issues, but for the most part, especially the northern part of the province, they had more of a normal year, and their yields are coming off some great yields. Their yields that we're seeing on all the trials that we do. We've got our demonstration strip trial program that we conduct every year with huge numbers of growers across the West, and those yields are coming in really strong. Basically the elite hybrids that people have grown to trust over the last number of years, they're still producing to the levels where they expected them to. So we're hearing, definitely you're seeing yields in the 50s, in the 60s. There's good reports from Saskatchewan. It's hard to make a statement and generalize about a whole province in one statement, but just in general, I mean, the numbers we're seeing from various locations are some good numbers, some good yields.
Yeah, well, I'm in southern Alberta, and I'm hearing yields have been very good. Some very good reports from different growers have been very, very happy. What about in northern Alberta? Have we even started yet?
Yeah, northern Alberta, again, it's been a bit of a waiting game for the vast majority of the area where I cover, which would be kind of north of Red Deer, east of Highway 2. That area had a pretty late start to the harvest. As of last week, there was still quite a bit of swathing going on. So in some of the areas, there was swathing going on just prior to frost. In some areas, they got hit by a pretty hard frost. That east central Alberta had some pretty low temperatures, -4 to -7, -9, those kind of things. So that was affecting some canola crops that were still on the green side. With uneven emergence because of dry conditions early in the season, we then had multiple stage crops. So growers were waiting for this second stage crop to come into the right maturity for cutting, but unfortunately the frost hit them in some areas, and in areas where it didn't hit them, well, they're still waiting. So there's still some stuff standing out there. But so harvest really on canola, as far as reporting any yields in this east central or central Alberta, north central Alberta, there aren't really many reports. There are very, very few canola fields that are harvested. And then again, if you go to the piece, from what I hear, I don't cover that area, but from what I hear in the piece, there's some guys are taking off some really big yields, and some areas struggled with excess moisture. So again, they're all over the map there.
Yeah, any issues as far as things like hearing anything about green seed, some of those things that creep up us in harvest time where we're like, oh, crap.
Well, I think green seed is one of those things that growers they've known how to, in general, they know how to avoid green seed because they're swathing at the appropriate timing. So that's one of the best ways to avoid green seed and let it cure out. You want to let that canola crop cure in the swath. This year, it's quite a bit more difficult because of the multi-stage crops. And like I say, from this area, where it's a bit of a wait and see attitude right now, people are waiting. There's a bit of talk about green seed. They're wondering how much green seed could be locked in or how long it's going to take for this to cure out, to get rid of the green seed. In other parts of the province, or other parts of Western Canada, I should say, looks like things are fine. No issues. We're not seeing any concerns. Haven't heard of any issues with green seed. Pretty good harvest conditions, good curing conditions across Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult this year to figure out kind of what are the total tons produced because, like you said, in areas like Manitoba and certain areas of Saskatchewan, we've got some real sort of variability. So it's going to be a bit hard to get a handle on that.
I think so. It's you can't just generalize. There's quite a few different. It's a patchwork quilt out there in terms of what's going on. You can't even just go province by province or north south kind of a split.
You mentioned a low yield of 10. What are some of the high? Have you heard some big numbers in terms of the high end of the yield curve?
Well, I think the yield numbers that I'm hearing here there are guys reporting stuff hitting in the 70s. I've heard of some yield monitor reports of 80s. So I don't think you're going to get those field averages. You never hear, I'm not hearing about those field averages as a general blanket statement from any particular area. But doing a trial yesterday, we had numbers in the 50s to the 60s. So that's kind of, that was in the St. Paul area. And I think that's where, a good crop is going to be 50 to 60 bushels. And there are a few of them out there, but I don't know if that's going to be the general. Like I say, we have to wait and see more in this area.
So your area in the Red Deer North that's where you are, and that's that'll be the last area to kind of get going.
Yeah.
If everything kind of holds true with the weather like it's supposed to, when would harvest be complete in terms of canola up there?
Well, I think that from what I've seen just traveling through the country over the last week or so, with a lot of the crop having, I'd say, a real vast majority of the canola crop in that large geography was cut. Probably it's been down for about a week to 10 days now. That would be the vast majority of it. And being that we're swathing when the days are getting a little bit shorter, there's not as much, I guess we're blessed with some nice weather for curing now, but it still just takes time. It's not necessarily just heat you need to dry the seed down, and you just need time for the enzyme to clear the chlorophyll. And, we're looking at for sure 2 weeks, but more than likely 3 weeks from then. So I'd say, we're a week before really getting into a lot of the canola right now. And then, with the amount of equipment power the guys have, they can usually cover the ground pretty quickly. I've heard numbers of 10% per day of their whole farm. So, if they can, if canola makes up whatever you want to call it, 40% of their acreage as an example, well, 4 or 5 days, they can chew through a lot of it. So within a couple weeks, long answer to a kind of a short question, but I think within a couple of weeks, guys will have a real good idea, and they'll be getting close to wrapping up in this whole area as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Leighton, and to all the viewers, good luck with the rest of your canola harvest. And Leighton, we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sean. Take care.